Hi, hello. Pokémon Day is right around the corner, so in celebration of that, I decided to go through all the old Pokémon Days to see what was actually announced or not announced and make a whole video about it. I think some of us remember every Pokémon Day being really exciting, but there are some Pokémon Days that were just not that exciting at all. The Pokémon Company started acknowledging or created Pokémon Day back in 2016 to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the franchise. And while there are usually multiple announcements throughout the years for Pokemon games or Pokemon Presents or Nintendo Directs or just Pokemon news in general, this video is only going to focus on what was announced on Pokemon Day each year starting in 2016 leading up to 2024, which is in a couple days. And I think some of you all have really bad memories because I have a really bad memory, and I thought some games or some expansions or some announcements were announced on Pokemon Day. And they weren't. They were either announced before it or after it. So again, today's video is going to be talking about what was announced on Pokemon Day starting in 2016 all the way up to now. So let's start off with 2016, which was the 20th anniversary and the very first Pokemon Day ever celebrated. And that was a pretty big one. It had a 6-minute trailer that announced Pokemon Sun and Pokemon Moon. The Pokemon Sun and Moon announcement also came with adding both traditional and simplified Chinese as languages to the games. And then following that announcement, the Pokemon Company announced that Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow were coming to the 3DS Virtual Console. With this announcement, they also announced that these games would work with Pokemon Bank, and by working with Pokemon Bank, you could catch Pokemon in Red, Blue, Yellow, and then move them into Pokemon Sun and Moon. Now, there were some other announcements not shown in that 6-minute video, such as there was a special edition of the 2DS released, which was bundled with some of these Virtual Console games. There was an exclusive 3DS cover plate that was announced. In Japan, the newest TCG set at the time, which was Pokemon Generations, was released on Pokemon Day. A 24-hour anime marathon also debuted on Pokemon Day, specifically on Twitch. This streamed almost all the Pokemon movies non-stop and also included the Pokemon Origin series in the schedule. And while this wasn't announced on Pokemon Day, I think a lot of people remember 2016 being the year of Mythical, where every month there would be a new Mythical distribution that you could get, starting with Mew. This was actually announced on February 1st, 2016, so this was announced well before Pokemon Day, but this was one of those announcements that I thought was on Pokemon Day, but it wasn't. It was it was announced beforehand. So overall, I think people remember the very first Pokemon Day 2016 pretty fondly because of the Virtual Console releases of Red, Blue, and Green, and because of the announcement of Pokemon Sun and Moon. 2016 is also when Pokemon Go debuted during the summer, but there was no talk about that on Pokemon Day. But we knew Pokemon Go was coming prior to Pokemon Day. It just happened to come out that year. The reason I bring up Pokemon Go is because even though it wasn't talked about this Pokemon Day, Pokemon Go becomes a constant talking point for future Pokemon Days. This leads us to the 2017 Pokemon Day, which is maybe the most lackluster Pokemon Day on this list. A little bit of a sophomore slump here. The 2017 Pokemon Day included Pikachu with a party hat getting released for the first time in Go. And at this point, Pokemon cannot even be shiny in Pokemon Go, so this was just a Pikachu with a party hat that you could go catch. Pokemon also released their gallery figures on PokemonCenter.com. The online version of PokemonCenter.com for the US released in 2014. This gallery collection featured Eevee, Pikachu, Mew, and Magikarp, and they were available both at Pokemon Center and at GameStop. And they were, in my opinion, okay quality. I went out and purchased all 4 of these as a Pokemon fan, and I don't even know where they are now. They were okay quality at best. They did do something video game related in 2017. You could head to your local GameStop to get 1 bottle cap for your Pokemon Sun and Moon video game. That's right, 1 single bottle cap in Pokemon Sun and Moon by going to GameStop, and you were able to do that up until March 5th. This was a couple days before Pokemon Day, but there was a Pikachu Yellow Edition new 3DS XL that was released right before, and that was something you could go out and purchase. It didn't come with any games or anything. It was just a yellow 3DS with Pikachu on it. And then finally, to round out this pretty lackluster Pokemon Day, they announced that Mewtwo Strikes Back, Celebi, The Voice of the Forest, and Zoroark Masters of Illusion were made available on Pokemon TV for a limited time. Volcanion and the Mechanical Marvel was on Prime Video, Google Play, and iTunes. And then the official Twitch Pokemon channel had replays of TCG, video games, and Pokemon tournament matches all day. In 2017, Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon was announced and then came out that November. And you would have thought that it was announced during Pokemon Day, but actually, Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon were announced in June of 2017. So all in all, 2017, one of the most, if not the most lackluster Pokemon Day, but it was their second Pokemon Day ever they were celebrating, and that's what we got. Pokemon Day 2018 was again a little bit lackluster. I guess I didn't mention that 2017 didn't have like a video like 2016 or recent Pokemon Days because 2017 really didn't have anything that didn't make sense for it to have a video. 2018 did have a video, and that video was about 57 seconds long, and it introduced Pikachu Talk, which was a Pikachu AI that you could talk to on the Amazon Alexa or the Google Home, which has now been discontinued. The video also shows off Pokemon Snapchat lenses, where you could have like little leaves around your head and Bulbasaur would appear. I believe they added more Pokemon later, but it did debut with Bulbasaur. And then finally, to round out this Pokemon Day, they announced that I Choose You was free on Pokemon TV. This is the Pokemon movie where Pikachu talks at the end, and some people did not like that. There were new gallery figures that got released, so if you were a huge fan of the Pokemon gallery figures that were released in 2017, they went out of their way to release DX version of those gallery figures. They also announced that 2018 was the year of legendary Pokemon, where they were releasing different legendary Pokemon every month. This is what they did with the mythical Pokemon back in 2016, but they announced that in January, so that was actually not a Pokemon Day announcement. Pikachu with a party hat returns in Pokemon Go, and this time, a year later, it could be shiny. We get a repeat of Pikachu with a party hat. They turned on the shiny this time. There was not a lot of shinies in Pokemon Go back in 2018 up to this point, but it was probably the most exciting thing in the 2018 Pokemon Day was going out and trying to find a shiny party hat Pikachu in Pokemon Go. They also announced that there was a trade and play TCG day in stores that in the US that was usually GameStop that you could go into. I believe I did do this, and if I remember correctly, GameStop had a binder that was provided to them by the Pokemon Company with specific cards, and you could trade the GameStop employee from this set binder that was provided to them. But this was more so to just get you to go into GameStop to get your legendary distribution code and to hopefully buy something because of the partnership that the Pokemon Company had with the retail locations. Now, I know what you're thinking. Wasn't this Pokemon Day when they announced Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee? And you would be wrong. You would be misremembering, because I was also misremembering. Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee were actually announced in May of 2018, so a couple months after Pokemon Day. This is where they announced Pokemon Quest, which then came out later that day. Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee, which came out later that November in 2018. And then they announced they were working on what we now know as Pokemon Sword and Shield, that they would talk about at a later time. The announcement of two huge games and a really, really awesome spin-off game, which is Pokemon Quest, happened in May of 2018, so not even on Pokemon Day. Pokemon Day 2019. I think Pokemon Day 2019 is pretty memorable because that was the announcement of Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield. We knew that there was going to be a new Pokemon game after Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee. In 2018, they said they were working on a game that was going to come after Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee. So they did announce this on Pokemon Day in 2019. They also announced their collaboration with Original Stitch to make a Pokemon shirt for the first 151 Pokemon. This was a Japanese apparel brand that made really high-end quality business, casual, or business shirts that you could order, and they would also custom make them according to your arm length or your shoulders. As of now, as of 2024, Original Stitch is no longer in business. It had nothing to do with the Pokemon company ending their partnership. It's just that company went out of business and they no longer make any clothing for anyone. So we never got the full line of Original Stitch. There was also a new Detective Pikachu trailer that debuted on Pokemon Day, although that was not in that like Sword and Shield announcement trailer. But we also knew at this point Detective Pikachu was coming. This was, I believe, the second or third trailer for Detective Pikachu. So that was not like a huge spoiler for Pokemon Day. And then to round off the 2019 Pokemon Day, Pokemon Go introduced Pikachu and Eevee with flower crowns on their head. So we are now moving on from party hats to flower crowns and another thing to collect in Pokemon Go to celebrate Pokemon Day. The 2020 Pokemon Day. So for the 2020 Pokemon Day, we got an announcement of the new movie. Pokemon the movie Secrets of the Jungle was announced, and with that was a brand new mythical Pokemon that was also announced on Pokemon Day, which was Zarude. They would also announce that Pokemon Mewtwo Strikes Back Evolution was a remake of the first ever Pokemon movie, and that would release on Netflix worldwide, except not in Japan and not in Korea, but worldwide, except for two of their biggest markets, that movie would be coming to Netflix. So to celebrate the release of Mewtwo Strikes Back, they put Armored Mewtwo into 5-star raids in Pokemon Go. But on top of that, that did come back technically, they put Clone, Venusaur, Charizard, and Blastoise in 4-star raids. 4-star raids don't even exist in Pokemon Go anymore. And then also they put Clone Pikachu in the game that had a chance of appearing if you use the little snapshot mode in Pokemon Go. Finally, on top of that, they put party hats on Bulbasaur, Squirtle, Charmander, Pikachu, and Eevee. And then they did a raid day on March 1st, which featured Nidorino and Gengar wearing party hats. And that was to reference the opening cinematic in Pokemon Red and Blue. And so while they did repeat Armored Mewtwo, I think once or twice, they never repeated the clone Pokemon of Venusaur, Charizard, Blastoise, and Pikachu, which is like a huge bummer because those Pokemon are pretty rare and they have a really cool design to them, and they were very limited in Pokemon Go, and they're one of the few Pokemon Go events that have just never been repeated at all. At this point in 2020, Pokemon Masters is 6 months old, so they do celebrate the 6-month anniversary of Pokemon Masters on Pokemon Day. And they did so by adding Red and Charizard to the game. The Battle Villa was introduced for the first time, and if you logged in the next couple weeks, you would get a 3,000 gem bonus just for logging in to Pokemon Masters. Pokemon Center Online added what was called the Pikachu Classic Collection, which was just a bunch of like dressier, fancier stuff that you could order and wear for like a date night out. Original Stitch in 2020 announced that they were going to do the Johto Pokemon, 250 plus designs of different Pokemon that you could order on their shirts. They also announced in 2020 that they would be doing children's sizes. In Pokemon Sword and Shield, they did announce that Mewtwo was coming to raid battles. And if you remember doing Mewtwo in Pokemon Sword and Shield, this was actually a challenge for a lot of people, and it ended up being that if you happen to have a Marshadow, it made the raid a lot easier. And they also announced starters were coming to raids, Bulbasaur, Squirtle, and Charmander, but the main focus was, of course, Mewtwo. And then finally, to round off Pokemon Day, there was a Pokemon of the Year vote, which was a collaboration that Pokemon did with Google, where you could vote between February 5th and February 14th to vote for your favorite Pokemon. Now, I know what you're thinking. Sword and Shield was announced in 2019 on Pokemon Day, so wasn't the Sword and Shield expansion pass announced in 2020 on Pokemon Day? This Pokemon Day sounds pretty good up to like, where was the expansion pass? That was actually announced on January 9th, 2020. For some odd reason, they did not save this as a Pokemon Day announcement. They just announced it in January that the DLC was coming, which was exciting. But just to point out that you would have thought, or you would have misremembered that the Sword and Shield DLC announcement was on Pokemon Day, but it was actually a month before Pokemon Day. But yeah, there was your 2020 Pokemon Day. 2021 Pokemon Day. Now this has to be a big Pokemon Day because this is the 25th anniversary of Pokemon. So to celebrate, they went out and they hired Post Malone to do some Pokemon music. That's not a joke. That really happened. There was not only was there a Post Malone digital concert that happened during the 2020 event, they also announced that Gigantamax Pikachu would be in raids in Sword and Shield, and that there would be a Pikachu knowing Sing as a distribution that you could download. So I don't know if you still have your Pikachu with Sing, but that was available for Pokemon Day in 2021. At this point, we are a year and a half into Pokemon Masters, so to celebrate, we don't have enough Charizards yet, so they gave us another Charizard, but this time featuring Leon and Charizard came to Pokemon Masters. If you've been following the trend here, 2020 was Johto, 2019 was Kanto, so 2021 includes the Hoenn original Stitch shirts coming. 2021 also announced new Pokemon Snap. The new Pokemon Snap ended up being made by the people who made Pokken Tournament. I feel like we could stop there and that would be a pretty good Pokemon Day in 2021, getting a distribution, an event in Sword and Shield, a music concert, great spin-off game. But 2021 also included the announcement of Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl and Pokemon Legends Arceus. We see the chibi art style for the first time for Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl. We know that is now coming late 2021. 2021 is also the 15th anniversary of Diamond and Pearl. And then on top of that, probably one of the biggest, most ground-shaking announcements we get during a Pokemon Day is the announcement of Pokemon Legends Arceus, where we see a brand new style of gameplay. We hear a lot of people say that this is the first open world game, although we then find out that it's not a true open world game. And then we get the release date that is going to come in early 2022. And then in Pokemon Go, we get the Kanto Celebration event, which has collection challenges. It's the lead up to Pokemon Go Kanto Tour. They bring back Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres in a Kanto Raid Day event. Also, I failed to mention that a lot of these Pokemon Days have Cafe Remix stuff happening. I just decided to skip some of that. But just assume that every Pokemon Day has Cafe Remix, just like every Pokemon Day just has Pokemon Go stuff. So overall, I think when people think about Pokemon Day, they probably think about this Pokemon Day the most, the 2021 Pokemon Day. Because we get 3 games announced, we get new Pokemon Snap, we get BDSP, and we get Pokemon Legends, on top of all the little things we get in between. We get an event for a current game, which was the Gigantamax Pikachu. We get a Pokemon distribution. We get more Master stuff, more shirts, more Cafe Remix, more Pokemon Go. And then we get a concert with Post Malone. So this is probably the most memorable Pokemon Day for a lot of people because it was the 25th anniversary of Pokemon. So they made a big deal about it. And they should have. It's their 25th anniversary. It would be more weird if they didn't do a lot of things on their 25th anniversary. So just makes sense. Pokemon Day 2022. We'll start off with Pokemon Go this time. They announced that the Alola Pokemon, Popplio, Litten, and Rowlet are coming to Pokemon Go. At this point, Pokemon Unite has debuted as a game that was not announced on Pokemon Day. But because Pokemon Unite is now here, they made a big deal about Hoopa coming to Pokemon Unite as a playable character. A lot of Pokemon fans thought that Legends Arceus and BDSP would be getting DLC, and that didn't happen. They did announce that Shaman was coming to BDSP through the professor's letter that you could connect to the internet, download, and get, and then you could go hunt Shaman. And then they also announced that Legends would be getting a 1.1 update, but not really DLC. When I think DLC, I think you're going to pay $30 for something. It's going to add 50 to 60 Pokemon to Legends. It's going to add a new area. Charizard's going to return. But that didn't happen. Instead, we get a pretty small update to Legends where they added some new outbreaks. They added a very small storyline. And then they added some actual battles to the game. And I'm not complaining about any of that. I think a free update to that game was very nice and very welcomed. But I guess I'm a little surprised they didn't add paid DLC to that game, because I think a lot of fans would have probably liked another area to explore, and they would have liked another 50, 60, 70 Pokemon that they could catch in that area. We then get the Sinnoh original Stitch shirts announced. This is This is kind of a given. It is the 2.5 year anniversary in Pokemon Masters, so we get another... No, I'm just kidding. We don't get another Charizard. We actually get May and Latias for Pokemon Masters. Going back to Pokemon Go, they do some stuff to lead up to the Pokemon Go Tour. Johto, Kanto, Johto, Hoenn, Sinnoh have all taken place around Pokemon Day every year for the last 4 years. Sinnoh just happened as I'm recording this video. They do another raid event in Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield. They decided to do the Kanto starters, so you'll get Gigantamax Charizard, Gigantamax Venusaur, and Gigantamax Blastoise. There's also a small distribution of an Hisuian Growlithe that you could go to GameStop and get for Legends Arceus. They also gave away 20 Feather Balls for Pokemon Legends Arceus for what that is worth. And then finally, 2022 Pokemon Day ended with the announcement of Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet, showing off Sprigatito, Fuecoco, and Quaxly as the starter Pokemon. Pokemon Day 2023. For Pokemon Unite, they brought Zacian to that game. A 7-star Terra Pikachu raid happened to celebrate Pokemon Day last year. Original Stitch is not out of business yet, but they do at this point announce that they are reprinting both Kanto and Johto Original Stitch shirts. They also announced the Pokemon Sound Library. Pokemon Sound Library is no longer available, but it gave you access to download music from Diamond and Pearl that you could use for your own personal use completely for free, which was pretty cool. During this Pokemon Day, that for the first time ever, the Pokemon World Championships would take place in Japan. They also announced that Pokemon Concierge was coming exclusively to Netflix. While that announcement was in February on Pokemon Day, it ended up coming to Netflix, I believe, in December of 2023. So that was a really early announcement for that. But Walking Wake and Iron Leaves was also coming to raids, and they debuted in 5-star raids. And you could only catch one of these per your game cartridge. They do end up repeating Walking Wake and Iron Leaves 2 more times after this. One, because there was an issue initially with this release of Walking Wake and Iron Leaves. Repeated it again for the Scarlet and Violet DLC. Also during this Pokemon Day, they announced that Pokemon Go will have connectivity with Scarlet and Violet, and you could do that with by sending a postcard, and that would get you multiple forms of Vivillon in Scarlet and Violet, and that would also give you the chance of getting roaming form Gimmighoul in both Scarlet and Violet and in Pokemon Go. During this Pokemon Day, they announced that Pokemon Home is coming soon for Scarlet and Violet, and then they also announced the Scarlet and Violet DLC. At some point during all of this, they talk about Pokemon Sleep. I can't remember exactly what year they talk about Pokemon Sleep, but they don't talk about it during Pokemon Day. Otherwise, I would have covered it. But they do bring up Pokemon Sleep during this Pokemon Day, and they say that Pokemon Sleep is coming this summer, and that there will be the Pokeball Plus device that will come with it, that will connect to Pokemon Sleep, but also connect to Pokemon Go. Pokemon Masters has another half-year anniversary, and to celebrate this anniversary, they're bringing champion banners back. Finally, they announced that the Pokemon TCG Classic is coming, which we end up finding out that this is a $400 TCG board with 3 decks based off Charizard, Venusaur, and Blastoise of the original release. But at the time, we don't know the price. We just know that they got Charizard, it looks cool, and it's eventually coming out later this year. So that is it. That is all of the Pokemon Days starting when Pokemon Day first started, which is in 2016. There were some real lackluster Pokemon Days, and there was also major Pokemon games that were not announced on Pokemon Day. They were announced either before or after Pokemon Day. But I think it's safe to say that most Pokemon fans remember the Pokemon Days that have game announcements, but not every Pokemon Day had a game announcement. Maybe Pokemon learned their lesson with early Pokemon Days and decided that the last couple of years, really, they wanted to make special, especially since 2021, 2022, and 2023 all seemed pretty noteworthy when it comes to the Pokemon Days before that. But I guess we'll have to wait and see for 2024. So if you've made it to the end of this video, hopefully I laid out all the Pokemon Days pretty easily for you, and hopefully you're excited for 2024. Feel free to like, share, comment what you want to see for 2024, or maybe make a comment and then come back to it and see if you were right or see if you were wrong. I did a whole podcast episode of what I think is going to happen on Pokemon Day. It's probably going to be on the screen. You can click there if you want to check that out before Pokemon Day. Or if Pokemon Day has already happened and you've already watched this video, you can go to that video or you can come to this video and comment that I was right or I was wrong. Thanks for watching. Thanks for making it to the end. And I will see you guys next time.